Parshas Shoftim. There's a mitzvah in this week's parsha which, while it may not be relevant to us today, is most appropriate for us to examine as we begin Chodesh Elul and start our preparations for the Yom HaNora'im. I'm referring, of course, to the mitzvah of appointing a king upon Klal Yisrael's arrival in Eretz Yisrael. Now, as we know, the majority of kings following Shaul, David and Shlomo were bad news for the Jewish people. Yerovam ben Nevat, Achav, Manasseh. And the truth is that we shouldn't be at all surprised. Because when Klal Yisrael first requested a king, Shmuel tells him it's a terrible idea. We read, Vayiskabtu kol ziknei Yisrael, all the elders of the Jewish people gathered together, and they approach Shmuel and they say to him, Hine ata zakanta. Shmuel, you've gotten old. Uvanecha leholchu b'drachecha. And your children, they've gone off. They're not following in your way. Ata simalanu melech l'shoftenu k'chol hagoyim. So now, Shmuel, give us a king who will judge us so we can be like everyone else. We can be like the rest of the nations. And Shmuel's reaction? Not great. Vayera hadava be'inei Shmuel. This idea was terrible in Shmuel's eyes. And Shmuel, as we know, davens to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu replies, Shema b'kol ha'am l'chol ha'she'imru elecha. Shmuel, listen to the voice of the people with everything that they ask of you. Why? Shmuel, don't take this personally. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They don't want HaKadosh Baruch Hu to rule over them. The question's obvious. What's going on here? Why is Shmuel so upset with them? After all, in today's parasha we read, Ki savo el haaretz, when you arrive in Eretz Yisrael, and you settle the land, va'amartu, and you'll say, Osima alai melech k'chol hagoyim asher v'sai, and you'll say, give me a king to be like all the rest of the nations around me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Soim tosim alech hamelech. Go, appoint for yourselves a king. And the truth is that Rambam, like most of the Rishonim, Paskin, like Rabbi Yehuda, that this is an actual mitzvah. One of the Tariq mitzvahs, when you arrive in Eretz Yisrael, appoint for yourself a king. So if it's such a mitzvah, why is Shmuel saying it's such a bad idea? Why is it so wrong? So the Gemara in Sanhedrin already gives a couple of answers. According to Rabbi Elazar, Zakenim Shabadar Kahogan Sha'alu. The original request of the elders was legitimate. You've got some troublemakers who have their own agenda and they're twisting the request. You have two groups of people with identical requests. One group are commended and the other group criticized. What's the difference? The difference is in their motivation. That's Rabbi Elazar. According to Rabbi Nehorai, the mitzvah is a reshus. You have permission to do so. In the event that the leaders of the people will decide upon a monarchy, the Torah doesn't object. The Kli Yakar, however, answers by pointing out that there's a fine difference in the words in our parasha and the people's request to Shmuel. The Torah says, Soim alecha melech. Place a king, alecha, over you. You will be under the king's yoke, answerable to the king. That would be the ideal. But that's not what the people say to Shmuel. The people say, Simon lanu melech l'shoftenu, give us a king to judge us. Give us a king who can serve us. We have a subtle difference in terminology which is indicative of their agenda. The people never wanted a king who would rule over them and keep them in place. They wanted a monarchy to be just like everyone else. Our king will be answerable and amenable to us. We want to be ruled by secular law rather than by Torah law. And to this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu replied to Shmuel, Ki lo yeschal ma'asu. Shmuel, don't take this personally. The fact that they want to replace you as a king perhaps is indicative that you're doing a great job. You're leading them rather than looking over your shoulder like other politicians and trying to gain popularity points. It's easy to make people happy and do what they want. It's a lot harder for a leader to do what is right. Hashem says, Mimloich alehem. They are opposing me as a king who's ruling over them. That's the problem. They only want a king who will pamper to their needs and play by their rules. Without a clear leadership, you have a role reversal. It's no wonder that Shmuel is upset with them. They want a king for all the wrong reasons, and they don't want to be subservient to him and to the Torah, but they want the new king to be subservient to them and to their ideals. That's the Kli Yakar. The Yalkut HaLevi, however, reads something else into their words. When the elders approach Shmuel, they precede their request with 3 words. Hine ata zakanta. Shmuel, you're getting old. Really? Shmuel's only 52 years old when he passes away. So he couldn't have been that old. So what do they mean? What they mean to say is, Shmuel, you're old school. You're old-fashioned. You're not modern enough. You don't say what we want you to say. Think about it. They could have asked Shmuel to become their king. Shmuel sensed that they considered the ideas and the ideals that he stood for to be old-fashioned and antiquated. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu responded, Ki lo yischa ma'asu. Don't feel bad, Shmuel, this is not about you. They treated me the same way. They made an egel after I took them out of Mitzrayim. The Shalach HaKadosh explained that Parshas Shoftim is always read around the beginning of Elul when we concentrate on doing tshuva. Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha. Titen lecha. Every individual must carefully judge and police their own body. Perhaps we can extend this thought to the pasuk of Soim Tosim Alecha Melech. Every individual has to place a king upon him or herself. Metaphorically speaking, find a king who will teach you, who you will follow come what may, rather than bend their will to yours. Many people think about the various chumras that they should take upon themselves at this time of year. But as I've said before, the Aruch HaShulchan advises against this. And it's certainly not what Rambam is telling us to do in Hilchos Tshuva either. Instead, I think we've got to use this time to make a cheshbon nefesh about our motivations. Why is it that we do what we do? We have to carry on going to work and doing what we do, but re-examine our motivations. Understand that we can and should be doing everything l'shem shamayim, which is really what the ideals of Torah in Derech Eretz is all about. This Elul, as we work up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, let us be zeicha to crown HaKadosh Baruch Hu as our Melech, to commit to serving him properly, to go about even our regular lives with the right motivation. V'haya Hashem lemelech al kol ha'aretz, b'yom hahu yihyeh Hashem echad, u'shmo echad. A good Shabbos and a good Chodesh.